Hey.
What's up? Welcome everyone to Inside the Crown. May, it's about to be Memorial Day. It's like summer is here. How are you today, Sarah? What's going on?
I am good. It's thunderstorming, but it's okay. It's going to be 90 degrees all weekend, so I'll take it.
Yeah, they're rolling in over here too, so I'm a little worried. Like I've had some internet issues, so if this is the Inside the Crown where this thunderstorm takes out the episode, that'll be an interesting time. But what are we here to talk about today, Sarah? What are we doing here today?
So we have a special guest, Andreas. He's here. If you guys know or not, Mr. New York City Subway is his Instagram handle. And he has had this viral campaign blow up with us and our hats. And we are so excited to talk to him about it.
Do you have something you can share? So if folks don't know what Andreas is about, then get a little sense of what we do before we bring him on proper and start diving into it.
Yes. Let me
fire it up.
All right.
What's up, Tony? I see Big Tone.
Alrighty. Can everyone see my
Looks
screen?
Good.
Okay. Let's get it going. The vibes are good.
The vibes are good. Are good. And with no further ado, let's get you right in here, Andreas, Mr. NYC Subway. Welcome to Inside the Crown. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thank you for having me. I was just going to say, just for clarification, so people, they probably get it, but those are like what we just showed. That was the final results. So that's like the BTS, the photos composed, put together, fully edited. And that's what we present to our audience, both on TikTok and Instagram. But we also do, in addition to that, to show the authenticity to the campaign, I always post the encounter with the strangers. So I go around to strangers, typically in Soho or on the subway. And there's that video too that we post before the one you just saw, which is, the final results, to kind of let everyone see how the process works with me approaching strangers, and not necessarily negotiating, but selling myself and selling the hat to them to get them to the point where they're like, hey, yes, I'll model for you. So I like to post that one first. Typically it's like a 30 to a minute long video. And then a couple of days later, sometimes a week, depending on how long it takes to edit the final results, produce the final results. So everyone kind of gets this anticipation built up for that video, and that's something we can talk about a little bit more, how this series has evolved, because I didn't used to do that. I used to just post the final results, but then I figured out, hey, if I post the encounter, it does really well for the series.
Yeah, the transition from stranger, obviously it's branded as a stranger series, right? But the transition of seeing someone literally be approached on the street as a complete stranger in New York City to the final product, that whole transition is absolutely amazing. We're excited to kind of ask you some questions. Both Sarah and I are gonna go back and forth with you. Sarah, do you want to kick it off?
Sure thing. I don't even really know the history. So how did you link up with Gorham Brothers for this campaign to begin with?
So I did a photo shoot with Matt Forget. He's a dancer from, I'll call him a movement dancer. He's very unique, his style, but he's from Paris. He was living in New York. And he and I, this is back when I was just solely doing collaborations. And that's how I really started my account on Instagram. and my following is just pure collaborations with top talent in New York City. And I did one with Matt, and he brought Gorham Bros a fedora to the shoot. And he said, hey, do you mind if we get photos with the hat on? And I said, of course not. So we ran the shoot. It's kind of funny. It was the first time I shot at this one location. And when I left, I was like, I don't think we got that many good photos. But then when I got home and I edited, he and I were like, we were in love. But yeah, we gave those photos to Gorham Bros, to Nikki. And that's how I got on Gorham Bros' radar. They did really well when you guys posted. And yeah, they were phenomenal photos with the fedora on. So that was our introduction to each other. And then the question was, well, how can we, because we both felt something. It was kind of like, how do we further this relationship? But that was our introduction to each other.
I remember when it first went up there, and I was living in New York City. I lived in New York City for 10 years. I'm in Charlotte now, but it was just striking. Like there is something about the images, and I'm actually going to share a slideshow here in a minute to give folks a taste of some of the different shows. But it was like, before I even knew the whole Stranger series behind it, your photography, your still photography is striking. Like I mean, it's a cliche, but you're capturing moments. Why the subway as the setting? Why did you choose that kind of as your canvas, so to speak?
So the short answer is I didn't choose it. It chose me. I actually the funny story is I used to hate the subway. And I knew nothing about photography about 4 years ago. So really what happened is I came to New York. I had this inner calling to achieve something more than what I was doing, which was being a lawyer in California, doing personal injury. So I came to New York thinking if I get into business law, I would find my purpose, my passion. And 2 or 3 years into being in New York, working at Goldman Sachs, some top tier firms, I still hadn't found what I was looking for. And at the end of the day, I didn't know yet what I was looking for. But essentially, I was at this point where I was, thinking, hey, maybe I'm going to leave New York. I'm not happy here. This isn't for me. The grind was getting to me, and I was just almost at a point where I was going to move back to California. I'm from San Diego. But the long story short is that I just had this awakening. This one morning I was going to work, and I was dressed, I'm an attorney in finance, and I was dressed in a suit, and I had my pillow with me, because I wanted to have more cushion on my seat at work. It's really, really strange, I guess, but I just wanted more comfort. So I had this pillow at 7:00 in the morning. I'm wearing a suit. It's a train car full of New Yorkers going to work. And I have this pillow, and typically the commute was like, it's kind of dreary. Everyone's got their head down, their eyes closed. And that energy was always getting to me and kind of affecting me and pulling out my negativity. But this morning when I had that pillow, everyone on the train car was looking at me, every single person. And some people were in disbelief. Some people were intrigued. Some people were laughing. Some people were like, you idiot. But what I realized is I could snap everyone out of their normal funk and change their mindset. And so it was that moment that I went to work that day, and I hit up 2 friends. One was a singer and one's a comedian. And I just said, I have this crazy idea. I want you to perform on the subway, and instead of asking people for money, I just want you to tell them, hey, take this positive energy and pass it on. So again, I just had this weird intuitive feeling, and I call it like a whisper from the universe saying, hey, go do this, and the idea was I wasn't happy with my commute. I wasn't happy with my lifestyle, even though everything on paper was great. I had a great apartment. I had a great job. I had a beautiful girlfriend. I always laugh about my membership at Equinox, but I still wasn't happy, and I was looking for something more. And basically, this was it. I didn't know it yet, but this was it. And so my comedian friend said yes, but he kind of flaked on me. And the singer, Ray Isla, she actually said, yes, let's do it. And so we ended up doing it. And my vision was, you're going to perform, I'm going to record it. And at the time I got a GoPro thinking this will be the tool to use, which was the last type of camera you should use for something like that. But the point is we executed it, and we went around on the subway, and Ray performed. She's this amazing singer. She plays the guitar, and we probably went around for 4 hours. I recorded everything, but we had people clapping, we had people crying, we had people hugging us. And of course we had New Yorkers who just ignored us. But what happened is I felt it right then and there. I'm like, this is that positive energy that the universe was saying, hey, you know, if you switch your perspective and instead of focusing on all the negative things, but focus on the positive things, you know, it evolved into what it did. And which is basically I started getting on the subway and commuting and looking for all the cool things. And which is basically, it's the people of New York, right? You can see
I was about to say, sorry to cut you off, but I was just going to say, Dre, like that, you know, anybody that's lived in New York or spent a significant time in New York knows like the subway is all New Yorkers are on the subway, right? You'll have a Wall Street banker next to, you know, like everybody, the whole cross culture of the city, like is on the subway. It's the lifeblood of the city. There's really nothing else like it in America, certainly in my opinion. And so I love that, like you took that as your canvas. However, like my follow-up question is like, you're obviously your journey's going on with this, but like it's New Yorkers are famous for, I say it's a very friendly city. It's misunderstood. People think New Yorkers are assholes. They're not. They're really friendly. They're just in a hurry. So how, especially on people's commutes, are you dealing with like going up to strangers and like getting rejected? Like what is that? How has that happened for you? Like, what is that experience like?
You know, with each shoot, of course, there's always these nerves that you get. You know, as soon as you get there, you're like, oh shit, here we go. Like, I got to go up to people and talk to them and kind of, you know, befriend them basically. And so you always kind of get that initial feeling of like excitement, but also kind of nerves. In the beginning, even till now, I still get that before every shoot, but I don't really worry about getting denied or getting shot down, because at the end of the day, like I love the subway and I love photography. So like I feel my passion within me and I'm like in my element, right? And as soon as I turn that switch on, like I can pretty much, I feel like do anything I want to do. So, but you know, having said that, of course, sometimes you walk up to people and like, you know, your intro sucks and like the words you use aren't that good. And you're like, that was really bad. And you see why that person's like, get away from me, you know, like bail. So I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, there's not a fear in me, but, you do definitely feel the nerves and the excitement. And, sometimes you feel super confident, sometimes you don't, but either way, we always end up, even when we get 2 or 3 no's, we always end up getting the right yes, and then the perfect stranger to shoot with. So it always works out, one way or another.
Right. On that note, like, how do people actually react to the hats themselves? Like, I know a lot of your opening lines are sometimes like, have you modeled before? But like, are people like surprised almost always by the hat themselves? Or are they like super down? Or are they like a little hesitant? So
the hat's a huge selling point, right? Like without that product, you know, I'm half the man I am when I go do this. So when I have those hats, and it's the perfect product for this campaign because they're beautiful fedoras, right? Very noticeable. Even on TikTok now, it's at the point now where I go out in public and people are like, you're the hat guy on TikTok. It's me and the hats that they recognize. It's not me by myself, it's me and the hats. But it's the perfect product to showcase visually to somebody. And then it's also the perfect product to put on and do a photo shoot with, because it's very easy to capture on a camera. And it also gives the stranger like this sensation, like they probably haven't worn a fedora in a long time. So it's like putting a cape on them, right? They kind of change into this different person with the fedora on. So if I were to think of the perfect product to have started this campaign with, it's the fedora with Gorm Bros. Like it just, again, the universe has always been guiding me from the get-go of this till now. And this is another example where like the start of this campaign was with Gorm Bros, and it couldn't have been a more perfect match. And that's why we're still together almost 2 years now, which is crazy.
2 years is crazy. Like during these shoots, obviously, like you can see, especially in something like this, like you're getting out there in the elements, you're really using the subway platforms and the different stations, like you're using that canvas, you know, in a very natural way. And like, it's almost a prop. And how do you know when a shoot is working? Like when you're like, because again, you're shooting stills, right? So like, how are you like, oh yeah, like I'm capped. There's something happening here. There's something happening here.
So it's a similar question I always get, like, what's your favorite shoot? And I said, there isn't one. At the end of the day, what happens is every shoot, once we find that creative flow and like we just kind of get going and we start to get a few shots and I show the stranger or the model, you know, hey, here's how the photos look. He or she starts to get the confidence. So do I. and then we get in that flow, and it's that creative flow where it's like boom, 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 and that's what you're always looking for in every shoot. And I, not to be, knock on wood, but I always find it, and that's why I keep doing this. It's like, if you go out and play golf and you hit a good golf ball, it keeps you coming back. It's the same thing with this. Like every photo shoot I have, there's that moment of creativity, of flow, of like, oh wow, this is it. All the stars align. As kind of cliche as that sounds, and that's what I'm looking for in every photo shoot, and that's what I always get.
Absolutely.
And for some reason, I think it's a twofold answer. It's the subway too. There's a creative energy down there that for some reason I tap it. Like I turn the switch on when I get on the subway. You put me in Central Park, you put me in Tulum, you take me to Colorado, to Aspen. I don't know. I just don't feel the vibe out there. But when you get me on the subway and the lighting and the tunnels and the depth, and it doesn't have to just be New York, it could be in London, it could be anywhere. As long as you get me in that environment, I just turn this creative switch on. So it's like, it's the environment with the stranger and then getting into that flow.
And maybe because it's your place, right? You had that moment where you were, and I feel like people that move to New York have this, where you're like, is this city working for me? Is this actually working for me? And you had that moment, and you obviously have that connection, right, with the pillow and being on the train. And it's like your safe space in the city. I love that.
And again, there's logistical reasons to it, there's unspoken reasons to it, but what people don't maybe understand is that lighting at certain stations is just like studio lighting. It's perfect lighting. When you shoot outside, if you never know what kind of lighting you're going to get with the sun, with the clouds.
Totally.
It's unpredictable. Outside photography, I give those photographers a ton of credit because it's really hard, unless you bring your own light, but then you're running around with a light. I don't use any artificial lighting, but that's the thing. The subway has great lighting and great contrast of colors. There's never an overexposed background. And then you get depth, you get these long tunnels and these run of lights. So it's honestly, visually speaking, I get why I fell in love with it. It's just, there's nothing else like it.
There's really not. You contrast it, and you contrast it with the models and kind of not only what they're wearing, above the neck, but below the neck. I think it's just there's like the juxtaposition isn't heavy-handed. Exactly. It's just there. I love this shot, by the way, because her coloring actually just worked with the natural graffiti that was there in the box. It's like, it's not, you couldn't have planned this, right? It just kind of works out. Sometimes a happy accident in New York is just, it's that magical city. Real quickly to that point, like that's the other thing too is, you come into every photo shoot with a vision. Even for my stranger shoots, I have like a couple vision shots. But exactly to your point, like once you get those, executed, you get in that creative flow, then you get these moments where it's like, I didn't predict that we would stumble across this, but exactly, only in New York, do you have so much variety and potential to find magical, I call it, the magic of photography, like those moments that you're like, oh, this is it. So this might actually, you might have just answered my next question, but it's like, why, we're 2 years into this campaign that you've been working with Coen Brothers. Why do you still love doing this? Why is this interesting to you still?
It doesn't lose that passion, right? It doesn't lose that excitement. It doesn't, this is something definitely to talk about is as a creator, you're always looking to, stay in your element, right? It's like a professional athlete, like you got your, you're playing good at baseball and like you don't want to lose your edge because as soon as you lose your edge, you're probably going to leave the league. And it's the same thing as the creator. Like you just always want to keep that. And at the end of the day, I always tell other creators, like, as long as you feel that creative flow, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to keep doing this and you're going to be successful at it. And for me, I just continue to feel that creative flow. Of course, now it's like, different things at stake, right? Like, there's more expectations, there's more eyeballs, there's money involved. But at the end of the day, I'm still doing exactly what I've always been doing, which is creating photography in my manner on the New York City subway. And as long as Coen Bros and, whoever it is I work with says, hey, just go do your thing, this isn't going to stop. It's not going to end because this is what I love doing. But I will say, there's definitely moments where you kind of feel like maybe you're getting stagnant or you're plateauing. And it's in those moments that you really have to dig deep. And I'm always criticizing my work and thinking, you know, how can I do this better? How can I, you know, evolve essentially? So you're always evolving too, because you don't want to ever plateau. And I have felt those moments. And, you know, in this series in particular, you know, there was moments where it was kind of like the content was great, but it wasn't performing. I mean, it's always been performing exceptionally, and we have to be very grateful for that. But there's been moments where it's kind of like, how can we step this up a little bit? How can we, you know, take it to the next level? And that's where I was talking about earlier, is where we decided, I posted just the encounters by themselves with no music, no edits on it, just me walking up to the person. And that took off. And I started doing that about 6 months ago. And we're getting crazy views just on that video, like 20 million.
It's like where all the tension is, right? Like that's the tension. Everyone has the fear of going to talk to a stranger, right? It's the combination of public speaking and also approaching strangers, right? It's like two things that nobody wants to do ever. So like, it's tense. You're like, what's going to happen? Or is this person going to tell them to fuck off? Or are they going to be really, you know, like and even though now with the series, you know what's going to happen, right? Like, and I think you posted some like blooper, like some rejections, right? I think.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
exactly.
So it's like, but that's all part of it, right? The process is part of it.
At the end of the day, you've got to tell a story, right? Like that's the one consistent thing big creators will tell you is like, if you're not telling a story or you're not getting people to like, comment, share, save your content, it's not going to go anywhere. So totally. when we post this encounter and it's so authentic and that's the other thing. There's no BS in this campaign. I'm not going to call out other creators, but they're doing stage stuff. And like this shows people like how authentic this is. And that's another reason why I like to show it is like, hey, this is as real as it gets. It's telling the full story. And then when you see the final results, you're like, oh, I remember the encounter. I couldn't wait to see what the final results would be like. It's a stranger. And damn, this stranger did great. You know, that's the other thing people need to realize. These are strangers for the most part that are not models and don't have any experience. And this is their opportunity. You know, a lot of people have, especially in New York, this inner desire to be a model or get into the creative space. And this is that opportunity, right? What better opportunity? Not only do you get to work with me, you're going to get great photos. You're going to go through that photo shoot process you're going to model, but you're doing it for a brand. So like, that's the other thing that I love about this campaign is it's genuine, it's positive, it's artsy, and it just brings, you know, at the end of the day, you're always going to have some trolls out there, but at the end of the day, all the comments, 99% of the comments are positive, you know, motivational, inspirational. And I think that kind of goes back to why I keep doing this too, is it's just, the people are really, you know, the viewers are enjoying it as much as we are. And that keeps you coming back too.
Absolutely. You know, the one thing about New York, and it was my favorite thing when I was living there, is just to walk around and see people's style, because New Yorkers, like, I always say, like, you can't get out freaked in New York. You can dress whatever, like, your aspirational fashion is, whatever direction that is. If it's like tailoring, and you can see it in your photos, right? All denim, like whatever it is. And like, no one's going to bat an eye, because in 5 minutes later, there's going to be someone else that's going to out freak you or whatever. So there's a freedom to express your own fashion style. And so your models, who are true strangers, just to get down to your authentic point, are like, they're always dressed so good and so unique. And I'm like, I know that people aren't dressed up, because this is just how New York is. Like, on any corner, you can find anything. So I love that. We only have a few more minutes left here. A couple more questions. I think, Sarah, you got one, right?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering, you know, you spoke a little bit about how it kind of got going, and, you know, it kind of went viral on TikTok, I want to say. And like, how do you feel the differences between videos and stills on TikTok versus Instagram? And like, why does some things work and some things not? And I think to your point too, about like the genuine part of it, like sometimes I feel like TikTok does have like less curated moments where it's like very like raw. So I just want to see what your opinion was on like the TikTok platform for this kind of campaign.
So it's such a great question, and it's one that I'm constantly going back and forth with. Is at the end of the day, the beauty is you have both platforms, right? And you have YouTube as well. You have shorts on YouTube, which I haven't cracked that code yet, but at least you could, you know, kill two birds with one stone, right? So I'll take the same content, I'll post it on TikTok, and then I'll post it on Instagram. Sometimes it will perform great on TikTok, and and average on Instagram. Sometimes it'll be the reverse. Sometimes it'll perform average on TikTok and great on Instagram. So at the end of the day, the beauty is we have both now. So I don't really look at it as a problem or a conflict. It's like, more, kind of diversify your portfolio a little bit. But I will say the attention span on TikTok it's longer. People have more of an attention span on TikTok to watch a 30-second video, a minute video, because of the format. People have been conditioned to watch one video at a time. It's typically vertical. And so people are more in the rhythm on TikTok to watch videos that are longer. So when you post a video on Instagram for 30 seconds or a minute, I don't think it will perform as well as TikTok, because the attention span on Instagram is more photo related, right? It's like they want to see a photo, they want to see something quick and move on to the next thing. And also your feed on Instagram, it doesn't take up the whole screen. So when I post a video on TikTok, it looks amazing. When I post it on Instagram, it's kind of cut a little bit. So that kind of, aesthetically kind of plays with people too, I think, as well. But I think, at the end of the day, and that was my last thing I was going to say is, if you go through Reels, and I at least my Reels, and I think that's the other thing. I think we could talk about the algos and all that. The sophistication of the algo on TikTok is 10 times better than Instagram. So you get on TikTok what you want, and you don't get what you don't want on TikTok. Whereas Instagram, they give you everything and they kind of give it to everyone. So, but if you watch Reels on Instagram, you'll notice most of the Reels are like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or 15 seconds. They're never really more than that. So the attention span is different between the two platforms. And that's why I like to do my photo shoots still with my artists, my dancers, and this and that, so we can give our audience that 5 or 10-second clip where it's like the video, the photo, and then the end of the video, and it's 10 seconds. And those always perform well on both platforms.
I love it. That segues right kind of into what I was about to ask you here, which is, what advice do you have for content creators out there? Whether there's someone just getting started, or, what advice would you give to people maybe watching this either live or on YouTube invariably in the future?
It's hard to give, a piece of advice that's going to be your saving grace in this or your answer. There's so many factors that go into this, but at the end of the day, do it for the right reasons, right? When I started this, again, I started to change my commute to make it more positive. And then I switched my perspective, right? From focusing on negative things to positive things, and wanting to capture those positive things and share that with people, so that people didn't think the subway was this nasty, terrible place to be. And so I did it for those reasons, for positivity, to make my life happier and better, and to make my life and, the lives around me happier and better. I didn't do it for money. I didn't do it for followers, none of that. And so if you can create your content and stem it from a point of passion and something you really care about, as opposed to, I want to be famous and make money, you're going to do well. Because at the end of the day, this is like everything else. It's a marathon. Can you do this for years upon years upon years? I've been doing this for almost 5 years now. And there was a period where no one knew who I was. No one knew what I was, no one knew me. But I was loving what I was doing, and I kept going and going and going. And at the end of the day, it's just about, everything in life is just never giving up, right? If you just keep pushing and pushing, but to not give up, you got to be a little cuckoo about something. You got to be obsessed about it. And I'm obsessed over this stuff. And I've been like that since day one. And I think, then it goes into work ethic, mastering your craft and all that stuff. But all that's going to happen naturally as you practice, and just obsess over this stuff. But you have to have it has to come from a point of passion, of love. And then that keeps you going. Because this is hard stuff. Like, there's been many moments where I wanted to give up, or I was like, this is stupid, or people have told me, I had friends and even my, family and whatever it is saying, are you serious about this? Like, the subway, what's going on here? And why do you keep doing this? And I'm like, don't worry about it.
Well, you said something that applies to Gorham Brothers, which is we're obsessed to cuckoo about hats. Obviously exactly. Been doing this for 120 years. So
exactly, you guys get it.
it's not surprising that we linked up, and I love that. Do have a question from the audience, which the comment was, all these hats look perfectly matched with the models, even though they're strangers. Like, how many hats are you bringing on shoots? Is it multiple hats or?
So great question. I'll bring 2 or 3 hats when I go out hunting, I guess. And here's how the series has evolved too. In the beginning, I would find my stranger and we would do the photo shoot right then and there. Okay. I still do that occasionally. I'll find the stranger, but what's evolved to now is there's great places in New York to find strangers. So for example, Broadway and Prince Street and Soho is a great place to find strangers. So I'll go and approach a bunch of strangers and I'll say, and most of them are in a rush. They have to get somewhere, they have to be to work, they have to go whatever. Because typically I go on Saturday or Sundays around brunch time. So I'll say, hey, if we can't do the photo shoot today, let's do it later this week. So we'll plan it out a little bit, which gives them an opportunity to, put on something different, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, whatever it is they're wearing, when I encounter them, it caught my eye. So they know what they're doing. They have a style, they have a wardrobe. But yeah, sometimes we do the photo shoot right then and there, and I'll have 2 or 3 hats, or sometimes we'll do it 2 or 3 days later and put a little more thought and plan it a little bit.
There's a great comment from Edwin. Shout out to Edwin, one of our regulars that is in our audience, saying you got to do an airport shoot traveling with Gorn. I'm like, that could be kind of fun too. A little trickier with carrying all the hats, obviously, but kind of the same transient stranger nation. Well, we're coming to a close here. We definitely want to hear like what projects do you have upcoming that you can share so that people can have something to look forward to. What's kind of next from you?
Right now, just continuing to produce great content with the Stranger series. I'm always looking for new artists in New York City. We did, if you guys remember the series with Buddy the Rat, he dresses up as like a rat. So I'm always in the beauty to New York. There's always new talent coming in, like from all, places, whether it's a Broadway, character or a ballet dancer. So I'm always looking for new talent to work with, to present to my audience. Here's a very talented, person in New York that you guys didn't know, and my audience loves that introduction. Nikki and I have been talking about this, and so has Ken Ruan. He's my behind the scenes videographer. But we're, at some point what would be really cool is if we took this to other cities. And I know we always see it in the comments, like people are like, come to Austin, come to Atlanta, come to Chicago, come to LA. Of course, for me, it's like, do you have a subway? And if you do, like, green light.
Go to Paris, man. Paris is my vote. Paris is amazing.
If Gorn Bros wants to sponsor the trip, or somehow we can figure this out.
I'll be your chaperone. Sarah and I can chaperone. We'll lug gear. We got you.
Let's take this international. Let's go to Stockholm. Let's go to Germany. Let's go to Paris. Let's go to London. Let's blow this series up. Let's go to South America. They have subways in Argentina and Colombia. And honestly, I know for a fact it would be complete viral content. It would be worth every penny that we put into it. So, and you guys have a huge following, a huge audience demographic outside of America, especially down in South America with the soccer players wearing the farm hats. So I think if we could at some point, and we definitely will, we just have to figure out, the right time, the right moment when it makes sense, but take this campaign out of New York and then out of the US too, which would be amazing.
Well, thank you so much for your time and coming on Inside the Crown today, Andreas. Lastly, where can folks find you on social media?
My social handle is the same across all platforms: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. It's at MRNYC Subway, Mr. NYC Subway.
Love it. Well, Andreas, thank you again so much for your time. Keep on rocking and rolling. Thank you for sharing your story. Super inspirational, and it's just been awesome to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And I just want to end with you guys, like, the Gorn Bros family has been so good to me, and you guys have never once told me no to any of my ideas. You guys have always been like supportive. And that's another thing as a creator, is you want to go with your intuition, and you guys like me follow that intuition and listen to it. And that's why we have such great chemistry, and we're almost 2 years strong. So I want to thank you guys too for everything, because this campaign has changed my entire life and the way I create content. So it's a team effort. And Nikki, I see you. I love you. Thank you so much for everything. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. If we never say no to anything, then let's plan this international trip. Like I'll carry your bags. I'm down with this. We can pitch this, right, Nikki? I love it. Well, Andreas, thank you so much.
Let's talk to Ben. Let's go.
Let's go. And thank you guys in the audience so much. We love seeing y'all in it, and we'll see you on next month's Inside the Crown. It's going to be a really fun and unique one next month. So until next time, take care, y'all.
All right, guys. Thank you.